At least one Black family is getting, finally, some form of justice. A former Louisville Metro Police detective pleaded guilty today to one count of conspiring to violate the civil rights of Breonna Taylor for helping falsify an affidavit for the search of her apartment in March 2020. Kelly Goodlett stood before U.S. District Judge Rebecca Grady Jennings and admitted the charge, with Taylor's mother, Tamika Palmer, present in the courtroom. With this plea, Goodlett is expected to be a star witness in the trial of three of her ex-colleagues, Joshua Jaynes, Kyle Meany, and Brett Hankison. They face charges of unlawful conspiracy, use of force, and obstruction of justice. This is the first criminal conviction related to Breonna's death. And man, am I thankful to see this happen. What I want to add before I come to you all for your thoughts on the matter is how grateful I am for this Department of Justice, for the Civil Rights Division that is led by Kristen Clark. She's no stranger to the show. She's no stranger to civil rights work. She has spent her life doing the work, and so many questioned how anything would be different under this administration. And when you're looking to figure out where there are differences, like would this happen under the Trump administration? Would this happen under any of the rogue attorney generals that were in there? Or is this happening because of our vote? My answer is clear. It's a resounding yes, but I will leave it to my panel to weigh in as they see fit. Dr. Mustafa, you first.
You know, I'm right there with you because we're friends with a lot of the folks who are there at the Department of Justice. And we've held them accountable also here on the show and in our own personal interactions when we felt that they were falling a bit short. But this also goes to show that when you have powerful women of color in positions and give them the authority to be able to make sure that justice is doled out, that it actually can happen. And as you said, that's why our vote is so incredibly important. We've got to make sure that that's happening, not just on the federal level, but also on the state and the county and the local level. And that's the power that exists inside of our vote. You know, it's interesting also when we think about our dear sister, who was taken from us. You know, we had to wait 889 days for justice. Dr. King talked to us about justice delayed. So, one, I'm thankful that finally there's someone who's being brought to justice. But I also think about the fact that, you know, the time that we had to wait for this to happen, but also that these other sets of dynamics that are going on in this space where we've always known that something wasn't quite right. And all these different dynamics that have been playing out over there. So, you know, we have to continue to keep pressure on this. One, we got to continue to lift the family up, but we've also got to continue to stay diligent in these sets of actions that are going to play out here over the next, probably 12 months.
Well, the only tweak that I want to give, because I'm not going to interrupt you when you're talking about the good things Black women do, for sure. Keep on talking. But I do want to tweak it and say many of us were not just waiting for this to happen. We were working and we were fighting for this to happen. And that starts first and foremost with Breonna's mother, Tamika Palmer. It starts, with her surviving sister, with family members, with attorneys like Attorney Ben Crump and like Attorney Juanita Baker. It continues with Until Freedom members like Tamika Mallory, like my son, like Angelo and Linda and all the people who work for them. I mean, there were just so many different people, so many different ways taking to the streets and fighting in the courtroom, fighting and going to the White House and fighting and advocating just for some justice for this one sister, and justice by way of accountability, because real justice would be she'd be alive. This never would have happened. They wouldn't have falsified documents and fraudulently found their way into her place that night. So that to me is real justice. But this measure of accountability has been just blood, sweat, and tears by so many. Dr. Walker, I'm just interested in your take, though, because it seems that the amount of attention we spend on, just to get this, as I said, to happen in one case is extraordinary. And to Mustafa's point, what are we not seeing? I mean, we know that we're not seeing so much. What are some solutions, if you have any, in the absence of the federal legislation that can enable us to know more about what is going on at the municipal level and at the state level so that there can be more accountability?
Well, Monique, I think that's an important question, but I think it's less about, what we're doing, because obviously, this is an issue in terms of, I talked a little in the last conversation about, interactions with law enforcement, in this case, law enforcement falsifying documents and ending up in a tragic death. But I think Black people are doing the work and have done the work for generations. I think this is really about anti-Blackness. One of the things I want to highlight in terms of talking about anti-Blackness is a reminder that AG of Kentucky, Cameron, dropped the ball when it came to making sure that we properly prosecuted the individuals responsible for Breonna Taylor's loss of life. But like I said, I think it was important for Black people, and obviously we talk about in the state of Kentucky, to continue to organize. Obviously, there's a Senate race this year, so we still got to talk about that in Kentucky. But it's important, once again, you talk about legacy organizations, the NAACP, but also some of the other organizations over the last couple of years in states like Kentucky and other states that have responded to some of these issues related to police brutality and misconduct, but not only collectively working together in the state, but also in terms of strengthening the network nationally. So not only do we have specific issues that localized, but also that we're connecting with other, racial justice organizations throughout the United States. But as I said, this is not a new issue. The same issue our generation has dealt with, my grandparents, our great grandparents. So it is about a flawed system at the federal and state level that we need to continue to fight for racial justice, because we need to be very specific about what's happening here, because a lot of the cases that we're talking about in this show and that we continue to hear about on a day-to-day basis involve Black and brown folks. So we need to continue, obviously, the power of the ballot box, but continue to organize. The other thing, Monique, I want to highlight, is we need to fund these organizations because, obviously, collectively, Black people, in terms of, we talk about, obviously, in entrepreneurship and supporting Black businesses, we also have to support racial justice organizations to ensure that they can file lawsuits and have various other initiatives to make sure we don't see these tragedies.
I think it's so important that you say that because when you look at even just the guests that we've had tonight, and I was in the chair last night and looking at the guests that we had there, we had a leader who'd started an organization called Julian, and they're filing lawsuits, catching the slack for things that DOJ doesn't have time to look at because they can't run around doing all of it. We look tonight at organizations like the NAACP, but this isn't NAACP national. This is local NAACP chapter that's fighting this bicycling while Black law, and funding those organizations does still matter. And sometimes I think people don't realize how much power we have on the local level to create change, even if all we do is take that $10 that we would have spent at Chipotle and give it to the local chapter of the NAACP. Or maybe we've got more time and we're running for office ourselves. I tell people, don't just vote. Don't just register to vote. Don't just carry people to vote. Run for the office, because when you look at the caliber of people that we elect, even to the presidency of the United States in this country, baby, you got a shot, and you likely will do a better job than some of the ones that are being pushed for right now. But those are my thoughts. Dear Randy, what say you?
Well, amen to that. Amen to that. I think that there needs to be more knowledge about what these organizations are doing. The media very much, like the majority media, very much likes to show us marching in the streets, but they don't like to show the work we're doing behind the scenes. The lawsuits that are being brought up, the people who are, writing letters and pushing the politicians and putting their feet on the necks of local police, law enforcement. And so if we were to at least see that and understand what's being done behind the scenes, then we would say, oh, absolutely, let me give my $10 a month to this organization. That's one. I really do believe many of us are, kept in the dark about that. And we're just kept in the dark about these cases that are happening all around us. The media decides which ones to pick up and which ones to highlight, where there are, many cases happening all around. Even the, biking while Black, I don't think many people would say that they know about that and what it's causing and how the laws are very much targeting Black people. So, because of course the media doesn't want us to be aware of all the discrimination that we face day to day today. So it really is just being more knowledgeable and getting that information to everyone involved.
Well, and it's also what we have an appetite for. The media as the bad boogeyman, I buy into it sometimes I don't. But the reason why we have Black media, the reason why programs like this exist and need your support is because these stories are going to get covered here that are not going to be getting covered other places. And that is the value of us taking it upon ourselves to keep ourselves informed. And even things you said, like writing letters, NAACP doing their advocacy work. We can all do some of that. Get a paper and or a pencil, boo, and a pen and some paper and a pen and a stamp and an envelope. Old school, because congressional offices care about that stuff. When they start getting mail, like real mail, they get worked up about it. They get worked up about phone calls, but I'm getting worked up.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay Black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?